folks. Hey. All right. One of the accomplishments of a Rebbe, a righteous person in our lives, and even a righteous person who perhaps is not even physically alive, but is in our lives, is that we are never alone. There's the teachings from the Hayom Yom, the Rebbe's thought of the day, that beforehand there was a prophet and the people. The prophet was alone, the people were alone, meaning they were in different worlds. Then there was a Torah sage and a student, even though there was teachings between them, but they were in different worlds and alone. Then came a Rebbe and a Chassid, and as a result, never alone. The greatest tragedy in the world that we have today, that we have so many ways to connect, but yet most everybody is alone. Having a sense of, not to be, sometimes alone and you're doing something alone, but feeling that you are alone. A Rebbe and a Chassid, never alone. How is that? Because a Rebbe brings into our lives a spirituality in a way that didn't exist before. So you had a teacher, you had a sage even, great sages, but it wasn't the same. There wasn't that sense of connectivity. And as we move forward towards Mashiach, we grow. We grow in many respects. And here's a respect that we grow in the fact that we never have to feel alone again. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zechron Kadesh from Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We conclude today the 27th letter. And we're speaking about the righteous and how the righteous are connected with their disciples, their followers. And the more you are connected with that righteous person, the more you gain from that person even after they pass away. And even is actually not the right word, more so after their passing than when they were physically alive in this world. Very counterintuitive, but this is what the Alter Rebbe teaches us. Because the righteous, during their lifetime, we gain from them through their nefesh level of their soul, which is the self-expression, their thoughts, their speech, actions. And that's how we gain from them faith in God, love and awe in God. They express things to us, which of course makes sense. And those things that they express, we learn from and we grow from and so on. But after they pass away, the nefesh level is disconnected from the ruach level. The ruach level is where their faith, love, and awe of God is maintained in their soul. And that's detached from the nefesh level. The nefesh level remains at the grave with the body. And that ruach goes to Gan Eden, to the Garden of Eden. And in the Garden of Eden, it feeds us directly. Not through the medium of thought, speech, and action, because there is no body now to have thought, speech, and action of the righteous. All there is that ruach, spirit level of the soul, that contains within it all that faith and all that love and awe that they had during their lifetime is still part of the soul. The soul doesn't die. The only thing that dies is the connection between body and soul. And even that doesn't completely die because the nefesh level is still connected to the body. It's the ruach level that it contains the emotive aspects of the person, of the soul, which is the faith, love, and awe of God. So that's detached now, but it's now giving to the disciples, to the students, to those who are connected to that person, direct. So it's not just a mere glimmer, but direct, which is unbelievable that we can get that today. There's another kind of an illumination that we get from the righteous, from the tzaddik, to the disciples, to the followers, who we all are, of the Alter Rebbe. That's, we're here. That means we're followers. And, not only your followers, some of you are here every single day. Don't miss a day. Well, that's pretty powerful. Now, truth be said, that means you're learning, but to be a follower means to follow the teachings and to incorporate them, right? And that will be each person according to their willingness, their capacity to do that. And and the stronger the bonds of connection of love is, so then the more you receive in return. So another kind of illumination, this kind is not vested within the individual, right? The first, what we just described, the faith, love, and awe of God, which are internalized things, we internalize in our minds and our hearts that illumination from the righteous. It's integrated. It becomes a part of us, internalized. But then there's one that radiates over us. It's encompassing. It transcends us. It's not something that's internalized. And it stems from the tzaddik's ruach and neshama level, which is the next level, the third level of the soul, the next level higher, as it's in its source from where it was hewn, where it was carved out, metaphorically speaking. So where's it carved out? Where's the Jewish soul carved out? It's called holy apples. Chakel tapuchim kadishim. Chakel, the orchard. Tapuchim, tapuach is an apple. Kadishim, holy apples. What is that? That's a Kabbalistic term for the sphere of Malchus of Atzilus, which is the divine source of the Jewish soul. So now what happens is this soul of the righteous, right? That's where the soul is hewn from. I mean, that's where all the souls are actually ultimately hewn from, right? And this ascent of the soul by the righteous, right, affects there a union. We've spoken this many times, right? A union between the male and the female parts of the divine, meaning Malchus of Atzilus is the feminine aspect of the divine. In Zoh, Zerampin, small faces, the divine emotions is the male part. So the righteous, they affect this union. How do they affect this union? Well, when they were alive, and their Torah study, and their mitzvahs that they did all the days of their life, created that union. I mean, we do that now too, by the way. The difference is, ours is kind of like, I don't know what the word is, it's kind of concealed. Theirs is more revealed. So that's what they did during their life. And, right, meaning their divine service, they create this lofty illumination above. And when do they come and reveal themselves? At the time of the passing of the righteous. Something we're going to actually learn more about in the next letter. Okay, what does that mean? So it radiates and comes down the time of their passing, and it affects all those that are connected to that righteous person. The disciples, the students, right? How does it affect them? That we get from that time further, not that just the disciples, but the disciples' disciples, the offshoots of the following generations, right? Following generations, the Alter Rebbe, like you and I, which we're like 7, if not, I think we might be like 9 generations after him. We're really part of the 7th generation, the Rebbe's generation. And it affects us how? That we have thoughts of penitence and desire to do good just because. Sometimes we have a desire to do good or to do tshuva because, it pays off to do good sometimes. But here we're talking about that you're affected from beyond you by this righteous person that you're connected to after their passing, that it just falls upon you that you're motivated to come closer to God, to do penitence, to do more good. Where is that coming from? Sometimes we would think, well, look how good I am. I was inspired. Well, what inspired you? Sometimes you can find a direct correlation to your inspiration, right? That can happen sometimes. Or sometimes the fact that it just kind of came out of nowhere. Well, nothing comes out of nowhere. It's because the attachment that we have that radiates us and it then is revealed, like the sun radiates the stars from below the earth. As the Zohar says about Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, that after his passing, his radiation extended in every generation to 600 general souls, as we learn in chapter 37 of Tanya. Like the sun that radiates 600,000 stars below the earth. So as it is with Moses, so it is with all the righteous, right, that are his successors, by means of the Torah and the spiritual service that they illuminated or the unions that they created through their divine service, they illuminate successive generations and their offshoots. How? To those disciples and those who make disciples of disciples that were affected, that we want to come closer to God. It's not something that we understand. It's not something that's integrated, that is, something that I've made sense of, or that I want to do something good sometimes, that you're just motivated. It's because there is an neshama, there is a soul of that righteous person that you have a connection to that's illuminating your soul, and therefore spurring you on to do greater good. That's not internalized. It's not something that we make it a part of us, like the other faith, love, and awe of God that we get imbued by the righteous. But this is affecting us. So it happens that sometimes, you just, like, as I mentioned, that you just like, wow, let me do that. Where's it coming from? Something greater than us. That righteous person that's inspiring and influencing us from above. A lot of influences in our lives. Okay. That we finished the 27th letter. Any questions? Oh, we have Davida and Liba with us. Simcha is with us. In Florida, Ron. Julia in Pennsylvania. is come back home. Stephen. John in Georgia, Clem in Brisbane, Australia, Moshe in California. Who else is with us? Joe in Washington. Zara is in Malaysia. Cindy in Florida. Loredana in Calgary. Leah in Florida. John has a question. Oh, okay. Did Abraham benefit from the illumination of the souls of Adam and Noah in the orchard of the holy apples? Good question. Don't have an answer. I don't know. Good question, John. Sorry. Don't know. We have Vilma with us. We have Shlomo. We have Yiddish Amidala. We have Minya. Rachel in South Carolina. We have Konya in Turkey. Lane. Alice. Some names I can't make up. Vicky in California. Okay. Oh. Vilma, please share with us.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning.
As you know, I take really quick notes and look at the direct source of your text that you're looking at. And I try to not only take notes, but understand what you're saying.
Right.
Like digest it. But that doesn't mean that I totally get everything. It's not possible in that short amount of time. So
That's why we learn every year, go over it again, because every year we get another layer, we get more. Exactly.
Yes. So every year, and I appreciate how much you share with us, the voluminous amount of information, I get something different. So this about connecting to a righteous person during their lifetime and after their passing,
right,
has a lot of levels to it. You talked about the Naran, the Ruach, Neshama.
Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, right. Naran,
like
right.
Three out of the 5 levels of the Jewish soul.
Right.
But those are the ones that make the person who they are during their lifetime, right?
Right.
So I'm going to study more about the differences because I have books about what the differences are between those 3 levels. But you mentioned something about the union that the righteous person affects on high, the female and the male union.
Right.
So I understand that the male is the emotive. What did you say the female was?
That's Malchus, the Shekhinah, the divine presence.
Okay.
Right?
That was.
Yeah, that's the female aspect.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Lori has a question. Following the Rebbe after he passed from this world, is he my Rebbe? The Rebbe was once asked, can I be your student or your disciple, and can I be counted one of them? So the Rebbe's response was, if if every day you try to be better and do better, then yes, you're counted as one of my students. Now, that doesn't mean we probably, I'm sure we have days that we fail, maybe that, but if that's what we're about, we're dedicated to be better people, to do more, then we are absolutely, as the Rebbe himself said, if we choose to, I mean, this is important, it's a choice, a disciple, a student, a follower of the Rebbe. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I must say, personally, and yes, thank you, Laurie, for bringing it up, that for me, the fact that I'm Jewish, the fact, that Judaism is a part of my life, in a way, that's something to be celebrated and to wow, how lucky that I am. But the only reason I really appreciate it to the extent that I do, at least to the extent that I do, is and appreciate who I am and what my purpose is in this world and what the whole purpose of creation is ultimately because of the Rebbe. So for me, it's like the greatest gift, because the fact that I'm Jewish, okay, that's given on high, but the fact that I am connected to the Rebbe, that didn't have to be. I wasn't born into it. And even some people are born into, a Chabad family. That doesn't mean that necessarily they choose it afterwards. Something that you got to choose. It's something that you have to want. And it's actually something that has to become available. Even though today there's Chabad houses all over the world and it is available, but it's something that we, in the end, have to choose and have the opportunity to choose. So if you have chosen this, right, from the chosen people, you've chosen. And by the way, if you're not Jewish, you can also be connected to the Rebbe. Absolutely. But as a Jew, that you choose that he's your Rebbe, and you devote yourself, everybody's going to devote themselves more or less, and based on what your mind and heart's capacity and what your willingness is. The basic willingness is, I want to grow and be what God needs from me, on a consistent basis, on a daily basis. Yeah. That's amazing. Thank you, Laurie. Shlomo, please share with us.
Good morning, Rabbi. I'm in Toronto, where we have about 25 Chabad houses, maybe more, close to 30 even, including 3 or a handful of Russian Chabads and one Hebrew Chabad.
Yes, I know them all. Which rabbi are you close to?
Rabbi Plotkin, Rabbi Mendel Kaplan, Rabbi Yurovitch, Rabbi Rosenberg, Rabbi Gitlin, the big guy, Rabbi Deitch, Rabbi Zalman, many.
Beautiful.
And
say hello to all of them.
Okay, and where are you? In
Montreal. Montreal.
That's not a state, that's a city.
Yeah.
Montreal, wonderful. Oh, boy. So my question,
yes,
whether there's Jewish people in the room or non-Jews, is a difficult one, unless it was covered earlier. The two neshamas, the two neshamas that come on Friday night, I think, I'm not sure. You can clarify it and leave at the end of Shabbat. What are they? And do converts, once they are Jews, attain that to other souls within them?
Excellent question. So our sages tell us that when Shabbos enters, we get what's called a neshama yisera, an extra soul. Now, it doesn't mean a whole new personality. It doesn't mean a whole new, as the godly soul and the animal soul. What it means is that we're given the inner capability of connecting to Shabbos in a deeper way. Just as Shabbos is an elevation of the world, the spiritual world is elevated, and therefore, as the world is elevated to its source, the world becomes more of a refined place that you can engage in. Therefore, the food becomes a mitzvah to have pleasure from it, for the pleasure of Shabbos. Whereas during the week, food is more of a functional, means to give you energy so you could do good, study Torah and the like. Shabbos, it becomes now an end in itself because it brings pleasure, the pleasure of Shabbos. So there's the elevation of the soul. In order to experience, to connect to all of the elevation of the soul, we get an elevated soul, and that's called an extra soul that gives us the capacity to connect on Shabbos in a deeper, more profound way. And of course, any person that converts to Judaism, they are given that just the same in order they can observe Shabbos as they need to, equally as someone who was born, a Jew. Thank you, Shlomo. That was great, and please do say hello to all the rabbis. I know some of them very well. Davida. Oh, okay, got it. Okay, thank you. Trying to take a look. Is there anything else here? So, folks, if I make a suggestion on Facebook, sometimes people make comments that are not the place. Everybody has their thoughts and feelings and their perhaps even an agenda. Right? And which is fine. Everybody can have their thoughts and feelings about anything and everything. But the comments on Facebook are not a place to use that, because we're here, and that to respect the the commonality, or rather the purpose of us coming together is to learn Tanya, and anything that's related to that and that is helping that is invited. Anything that's not, leave it for another place. But I suggest that for those who do see it and they're disturbed by it, don't let it disturb you, because it's disturbing you, then it's going to take you away from focusing on the learning, and then that's the worst thing that should happen. That is the worst thing, to take you away from the focus on the learning, and that there's sometimes the best way to deal with something that is not the place for it is just don't deal with it. And if no one pays attention, it gets no traction, then just goes away by itself. Sometimes that's the way, and I think in this instance, probably the best thing. All right, folks, guess what? We have Rambam coming up now, and we will continue our conversation as we do day in, day out. I thank you all for joining. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zurich Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have an amazing, great day. Thank you all.